Welcome into the Heat Report by Chat Sports, and we have a loaded topic on today's show. Miami Heat trade rumors around Giannis Antetokounmpo are hot. They continue to steam in here through the public perception, as it was kind of a surprise early or late last week that Giannis could ask out, according to Bill Reiter, and the Heat are linked as the top destination by Sportsbook and apparently Giannis himself. And this comes off the back of a bad loss at home against the Sacramento Kings, where Domantas Sabonis had a putback with 0.7 seconds left to lift Sacramento against Miami. But it just really illustrates a larger picture for the Miami Heat, that they simply are not good enough to win in the NBA right now. They're 3-3 at the time of filming this. They have beaten the Hornets, the Wizards, and the Pistons. They've lost to the Kings, Magic, and Knicks. You beat 3 bad teams. You lost to 3 good teams. You are not a good team. You are right in the middle of the pack. You'll beat up the bad teams. You'll lose to the good teams. Something has to change around this basketball team, and maybe it's making a major overhaul to the roster and acquiring a top 3 player in the NBA in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And if you want changes to happen to Miami, whether it be on the roster, whether it be in the rotation, whatever you want, like the video. There is clear change needed for the Miami Heat. Hit that thumbs up icon if you want something to switch up and the Heat to finally start playing like the team that we all thought they were in the preseason. But let's throw it back a little bit here, because this all started last Thursday when CBS Sports insider Bill Reiter reported that Giannis Antetokounmpo may be looking at a potential trade request if the Bucks continue to struggle. And the struggle has continued for Milwaukee. They are 1-6. They are simply not winning basketball games. They are playing horrible. And yes, Giannis missed Monday's game where they barely lost to Cleveland, who is undefeated. But even when Giannis and Dame both play, they simply aren't able to get wins. Now, maybe it's because Chris Middleton's out, but this is an aging roster in Milwaukee. Middleton's old. Dame is old. Bobby Portis is old. Brook Lopez is old. This team is not built to be a winning squad going forward, and if they're not able to win now, then it would make sense for Giannis to potentially think about making a move in the NBA. And according to some reports out there, the 2 top preferred destinations for Giannis Antetokounmpo were Miami and Brooklyn. Now, Brooklyn doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of Giannis, but it makes a lot of sense for Milwaukee acquiring a lot of draft capital from the Brooklyn Nets, and Miami has long been a team that made sense for Giannis because of the fit with Spoelstra, the city, as well as some other factors of who you'd be playing with on the Miami Heat. And they're not the only reason why we're talking about this on this report, because the next team odds out there by Bovada have Miami as the clear favorite to acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo if he leaves the Milwaukee Bucks. They're plus 150. You got the other teams like the Nets, Rockets, Spurs, and Grizzlies, all teams that make a ton of sense in my opinion behind Miami, but the Heat are in the lead like they once were for the other big player on the Milwaukee Bucks in Damian Lillard. But this isn't the only reason. We're going to continue to show you why the Heat rumors are so hot around Giannis. An anonymous NBA executive said the only places I can see Giannis going are Miami and the LA Clippers. Why the Clippers? I have no clue, but they were linked with Miami. So now that's 3 people. The Sportsbook, Bill Reiter, and this anonymous executive that linked Miami and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Well, let's go to number 4, because in an article from Bill Reiter, he talked to some people, and allegedly Giannis has already let some people know that the places he's eyeing are Miami and New York, this time being the Knicks, if he decides that he wants to be on the move. And now the Knicks are a little bit difficult because they don't have a lot of draft capital to offer, but they do have Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Karl-Anthony Towns potentially to deal out. But here's the thing. That is now the original report from Reiter. That is Sportsbooks. That is an anonymous NBA executive. And then Reiter coming in again. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Like, that's 4 different times that we've seen Miami linked to Giannis Antetokounmpo as one of the top destinations, top options. Which means if Giannis ultimately ever does request a trade, it feels like Miami would be atop of his list, like Damian Lillard had Miami. And I think the Heat would go all in for Giannis, and they should go all in for Giannis. But what say you? Should the Heat go all in for Giannis Antetokounmpo if he ever request a trade, whether it be during the season, whether it be in the offseason, let me know if you think Miami should go all in on Giannis. You know my answer. It's absolutely. Giannis is a franchise changer, a unicorn. Whatever adjective you want to use around Giannis Antetokounmpo, as long as it's not negative, you will be correct. This is one of the best players in NBA history. He's a top 50 player of all time without a question, and he's only 29 years old, with still 5 to 6 seasons left potentially of his prime. And he just continues to roll on and showcase why he is such a dominant force in the association, consistently averaging 30 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, 5.5 plus assists while shooting 55% from the field. And another reason why I really like Giannis is because unlike Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who sometime no-show in the regular season, Giannis brings it every single night. With his intensity, his tenacity, he does it on both ends. He is a top 10 defensive player in the NBA, a perennial DPOY candidate, a top 5 MVP candidate at all times. If he ever came available, you hold nothing back in your pursuit of a Giannis trade. And maybe you get outbid by a team like Houston or Brooklyn that just throws 8 first-round picks at Milwaukee, and the Bucks just have absolutely no choice but to accept that deal as long as they're not effing over Giannis, and Antetokounmpo's fine going to that destination. But if Miami does not offer every single thing they could possibly do for Giannis, that would be a monumental mistake if you're asking me, and it's something that just can't be done if you're the Miami Heat, especially if it's known that he would like to go to Miami if he requests a trade. We'll talk about what a trade looks like in just a second. But we are sponsored by DraftKings, the #1 sportsbook and casino, the only one that the Heat Report uses. And with the NBA season here, they have so many great deals, and they're the home of NBA player props. The NBA is finally back. A new season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes from beyond the arc? Who's crashing the boards and grabbing rebounds? Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. First time, new DraftKings customers bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HEATCHAT. That's code HEATCHAT for new customers. Get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/bball. And you can play any way you want with DraftKings, whether it be player props, straight bets, parlays, spreads, over-unders. It doesn't matter. And there is no NBA games on today due to the election on November 5th. But on Wednesday, here are some of my plays for the day. I got Suns -5.5. I think they beat Miami, if we're going to be completely honest, pretty handily. Nuggets +4.5 at home against the Thunder. And then Grizzlies money line at home against the Los Angeles Lakers. Make sure you play any way you want with DraftKings. Download the app, create an account, and use code HEATCHAT when creating an account to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring the Heat Report. All right, as we get back to Giannis here, the question is, what would it cost Miami in a trade? Because we talk about throwing the kitchen sink and everything at Milwaukee to acquire Antetokounmpo, the former MVP and NBA player or NBA champion as well. Finals MVP. I don't know why I spaced on that one. But the conundrum here with Miami is, and this is really the issue that I have with a potential Giannis trade, and this is it. The Bucks, if they're going to deal with the Miami Heat and trade him to Miami, there is a clear-cut player they're going to want back, and it's Bam Adebayo. And now, I did say that I would be willing to trade everything for Giannis, and Bam might be included in that. Like, I'm being serious. Like, Giannis is that type of guy, and there might be only 3 to 5 players in the NBA that you would trade Bam for right now. Giannis probably is one of them. Luka Doncic is another. probably would. Maybe there's only two. Like, I'm being serious. Like, there's not many guys out there I would trade Bam for because of how impactful he is to this organization on the defensive end and how he's blossoming on the offensive end. But the thing is like, what is the point if you're Miami if you don't keep Bam Adebayo? If you trade Bam at the deadline for Giannis, do you think Giannis, Jimmy Butler, and some of these guards win it all? Like, maybe. Like, obviously, Giannis is an upgrade over Bam. He just is. Like, just going to call it how it is. But ideally, if you're building this team out, you want Giannis and Bam to be your duo for the next 6 to 7 seasons because they would be absolutely generational. The defense that those two would provide you in the front court is second to none. I would be willing to go on the record and say they would be the best defensive duo in NBA history. The ability that they would have to switch inside, guard 1 through 5, rebound, block shots, like it would be unreal. Like you would not want to go inside the painted area when Giannis and Bam are sitting in there with their ability to help on the weak side, switch, body you up with their physicality, but also switch and pick and rolls on the perimeter. Like, it would be generational defensively, and that is even talk about how good they would be offensively as well as Bam continues to improve, and Giannis is one of the biggest freak of natures in the entire association. It would be an unbelievable duo, but it might cost Bam to get Giannis. So that's the $1 million question here at the Heat Report. Would you trade Bam for Giannis Antetokounmpo? Type T for trade, type key for keep. It is the toughest question. It's a hard one to answer, but give me your thoughts down below. I will say this. When you're talking about a potential Giannis to Miami trade, it ultimately depends on when it would go down. Does it happen at the trade deadline this year if he requests a trade and things go really bad, or does it happen in the offseason? Because if we're going to be honest, if it happens in the offseason, it becomes very tricky for Miami to get a deal done, and it might have to cost you Bam Adebayo. But if it happens at the deadline, there might be a chance where you get to hold on to Bam in a mega blockbuster 3-team deal. What do I mean by that? It is very, very complicated to get a deal together with Miami and Milwaukee because, one, you can't aggregate contracts with Milwaukee in a straight-up deal. So you could do Jimmy for Giannis straight up because they have the same contract of the Supermax, but you only have 2 first-round picks, and Jimmy and 2 first-round picks aren't going to get it done. So you have to open up to a 3-team deal, and after a lot of manipulation, this is the one that made sense to me after exploring other trade partners. And ultimately, Miami lands Giannis, Jock Landale, and DeLon Wright. Landale and Reiter just throw-ins. Giannis is the main attraction. And what you give up is Jimmy Butler, Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Haywood Highsmith, and 2 first-round picks in 2029 and 2031. You get Houston involved because they could be interested in Jimmy. They'll send 2 first-round picks and a young player to Milwaukee to sweeten the deal. So now the Bucks get Dillon Brooks, Jeff Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Jaquez, Highsmith, and 4 total first-round picks, which, listen, it's going to be hard to quantify Giannis's trade value because he is maybe the second most valuable player in a trade that could go down in the NBA behind Luka Doncic. So to me, it's going to be hard for them to get fair value back, but getting 2 young forwards in Smith and Jaquez, salary filler and good rotation pieces, plus 4 unprotected first-round picks might be the best you can do if you are Milwaukee and if you want to help Giannis get to his preferred landing spot. In Houston, their side of it, maybe they overpay here, but getting Jimmy and Jovic, 2 young or a young guy in Jovic, a wing in Jimmy, and all you got to do is give up salary filler and Jeff Green, Dillon Brooks, 2 first-round picks, and a young guy in Jabari Smith. You get a young guy back and Jimmy. I think that's fair if you're looking at it Houston's side. So Houston and Milwaukee could happily accept this. Miami gets their guy. Now, will this happen exactly? Unlikely, but this is the best idea I could come up with a trade if it happens at the deadline with Jimmy Butler's contract still on the books for the Miami Heat. And that's why if it happens in the offseason, this becomes so much trickier, folks, is because Jimmy is likely to opt out of his contract and become an unrestricted free agent this upcoming offseason. And if that's the case, well, then you can't really make a deal, including Butler's contract, unless you do a sign-and trade. And if you do a sign-and trade in this potential 3-team deal or something like that, it would hard cap you and change a lot of the different flexibilities you would have. Now, you'd be able to have Bam and Giannis still, which you could probably just say you're fine with that, but it would just make it a lot more difficult to find a avenue to get this deal completed. So if you're going to get a trade for Giannis, it is beneficial for Miami for it to happen at the deadline, but I don't see it happening that way. If Giannis ever asked out of a trade, it would likely because they were first-round exits or missed the postseason altogether this year, and it happens in the offseason where Miami would have to make a lot of tough decisions financially if they wanted to get Giannis on their roster via a trade. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're dropping videos in between every Miami Heat game day. And we are also live for Heat game days. We'll be live tomorrow for the Suns game, be live on Friday for the Nuggets games. We'll have videos obviously today. We'll have videos on Thursday. We have content every single day breaking down Miami Heat basketball. So hit that sub button. Hopefully I see you on tomorrow's watch party where the Heat maybe get a upset win against the Suns. Go Heat.